Well, good morning, everyone. I've got 5 after 8, so I'd like to see us get started if we could. I know it's a rainy day, and I think we got some other members that are a little bit late getting here. I've had several texts, so I hope they stay safe on the road, and we're not texting while they were driving me. But I'd like to ask my friend Representative Mathis to open us up with a word of prayer.
Pray. Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the rain, but we do ask you to watch over the folks in Texas, New Orleans. They had the bad weather, and the weather that's coming through Alabama. Just watch over folks at the Panhandle of Florida. But we do thank you for the rain. We do thank you for your blessings. Father, help us make good decisions for agriculture, whatever it may be in this state. Help us to do your will in everything that we do. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you. Well, we've got a pretty full agenda this morning, and I know we got a guest here, State Executive Director of USD Farm Agency, Arthur Tripp's here, but my good friend, Senator Harper says he's supposed to be in a Senate appropriations meeting. Very important budget. We got the House sent over some real good numbers, and I know they're holding all those good suggestions we sent. So we're going to go with SB 486 first here. And thank you, Senator Harper, and thank you for all your help on your side with Freedom Farm Bill. Had some mighty good comments in committee both times there. So thank you for that, and thank you for all you do. And with that, I'll let you explain SB 486.
Thank you, Chairman. And you're all right. We do have a good budget we're working on this morning, and I'm sure we'll be have a lot of good House suggestions that we'll make sure we send back over, including some Senate suggestions to go with those. So, but I appreciate the opportunity to be with you and talking about the Freedom to Farm Bill. I want to thank you for taking that on, and I appreciate your efforts on that, Mr. Chairman, and the work of this committee. And we look forward to getting that out of the Senate also. And it is good to see my good friend Arthur Tripp this morning and the work he's doing for USDA and FSA, and appreciate what you're doing there. But to get to the bill at hand, Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 486 should be LC 510075 is what I have. I just want to make sure we're working. I'm not working off of a different version you may have in your folder.
That is what we have in the folder.
Okay, good deal. So if you'll remember last year, Senator Anderson carried a bill updating the commodity commissions in Georgia, basically giving them the opportunity where they won't have to run an ad in the Atlanta paper, among other things. It's real administrative type work. And that bill passed. The governor signed it. It is now law. The Propane Commodity Commission obviously is a commodity commission also, but the way the code is worked, the Propane Commodity Commission falls outside of that code section where we made those changes for the other commodity commissions last year. So the Propane Commission was not included in those changes we made last year to the other commodity commissions. They asked if we would make those changes. I agreed to bring the bill. So it's identical to what we did with the other commodity commissions last year. And that's what the underlying bill does. The department, Commissioner Black is signed off on it. We're and as well as obviously the Propane Commodity Commission has asked for it. So that's what the bill does. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. And yes, that the bill that made those changes was very positive, very good. And I think this was certainly try to get this commission under the same
That's correct.
areas those other ones would be a very positive move. Are there any questions from the committee? I see none, Senator. I would entertain a motion of due pass. Got a motion, got a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none. HB 486 passes this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a great day.
You do too.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving right along. Next, I'd like to introduce our State Executive Director for U.S. State Farm Service Agency, Arthur Tripp. He was appointed in October of last year. And Tripp is a native Georgian, born in Warner Robins. Prior to his appointment, he served as Senior Policy Advisor to U.S. Congressman David Scott, the current U.S. House Committee on Agriculture, where he managed the agriculture policy portfolio for the congressman. He also served as a senior administrator in the office of the president at the University of Georgia, as district director for Georgia's 7th Congressional District. Tripp is a graduate of UGA, go Dogs. He was named to the 2015 class at the University of Georgia, 40 and under, and served on the Alumni Board of Directors, UGA School of Public International Affairs. He's a graduate of 2019 class of Leadership Georgia and served on the 2020 class as a program chair. And I think several of us on this committee are alumni of Leadership Georgia, a great organization. Also served as board member at Athens Chamber of Commerce. He and his wife live in Houston with their 3-year-old son. And another interesting fact, he's an ordained minister. And if any one of you need a wedding done, he might could do that. So Arthur, you're no stranger to many of us on this committee, and I just thought it was a great opportunity to get you here. And yes. Sorry, not more of our committees here, but just wanted to, you and I talked about coming up and just giving us an overview of what's going on with our federal partners. And it's a great agriculture, depends on local, state, and federal partners, and your office certainly is that. And so thank you for coming this morning, and you've got the floor.
Well, thank you, Chairman Dickey, and to the distinguished members of this committee. Good morning. As was mentioned, my name is Arthur Tripp, and I am the State Executive Director for the Farm Service Agency. We are an agency that is housed within the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and we were commonly referred to as FSA. And I truly appreciate the opportunity to come. But I wanted to come to break down 2 quick questions. What is FSA? Who are we? And really, what do we do? Well, the Farm Service Agency, as I mentioned, we are housed within the Department of Agriculture, and we have 2 primary responsibilities. We provide access to capital, to nearly anything agriculturally related in our state, such as providing loans that cover operating expenses or equipment purchases. But most importantly, we also provide funding for disaster assistance for crops and livestock and other agriculturally related commodities. Say, for example, if you're a pecan grower and you experience a disaster, either through hurricane or through weather, our agency steps in if you're enrolled in one of our programs, and we can provide financial support. Last year alone, solely through our agency here in Georgia, we allocated over $1.3 billion worth of assistance to farmers and producers in our state. Again, that's 1.3 billion with a B. And in order to accomplish this mission, the agency that I direct, we have over 300 employees that are spread across 66 offices in our great state. So rest assured, it doesn't matter if you're in a rural, a suburban, or an urban area, you are covered. And our agency spans every inch of this state, and we have a presence in each of your districts. So as we continue to emerge from this pandemic, it's evident that each of us, including each of your constituents, are still experiencing some unprecedented hardships due to COVID-19. And our agricultural community was certainly not exempt. And thankfully, the Farm Service Agency, FSA, we were there every step of the way. And we noticed that when the supply chain is disrupted, our farmers and some of our farming community are the most heavily impacted. So as a result, we were able to obligate over $176 million in direct relief to Georgians and our farming community that were hit hardest by the pandemic. Mr. Chairman, you may be pleased to know that we are also teaming up with local banks across the state to provide low interest guaranteed loans to farmers in need. Whether it's for a new hay barn or for farm equipment or the need to expand current operations, our farm loans are ready to help Georgia's farmers continue to produce. And when a farmer works with a local bank that has been cleared through our agency to accept a loan through one of our programs, Georgia FSA often assumes up to 90% of the debt risk, 90%. And this provides a clear benefit to the bank and allows farmers to get back to work with minimal risk. Also at FSA, we are pioneering innovative programs for our youth and for our beginning farmers who are new to the industry. We have an exciting youth loan program as a fantastic example. Through this program, we offer low interest loans up to $5,000 to help our young people establish themselves in the farming community. Local chapters of FFA and other school groups work with us to engage with this program and get students invested early in agriculture. Furthermore, we partner with our sister agency, the Food and Nutrition Service, to promote their farm to school program. And this helps to teach our youngest students where their food actually comes from prior to arriving at the grocery store. And personally, I'm really excited about this initiative because I believe it makes ag cool. It allows our young people to touch, taste, and feel the process of agriculture from seed to plate. And finally, Mr. Chairman, we are in the process of rolling out an initiative that we feel will advance agriculture through our entire state through a series of new urban agriculture initiatives. These innovative initiatives will allow the citizens of our state and your constituents the opportunity to take action in their communities to grow healthy, fresh food. But most importantly, we feel that it will also provide jobs, beautify their neighborhoods, and offer access to fresh, healthy food in areas where grocery stores are sparse. With support from our agency, we are truly excited about the potential partnerships with the local communities in each of your districts. And so that's why I'm here, and I need your help. I humbly ask that you invite my team to come to your districts to meet your producers. Doesn't matter if they've been farming for generations or if they're looking to just get involved. We have a program where we have guidance and expertise for everyone. I do truly feel that if we work together, we can continue to support the #1 industry in Georgia while also expanding our reach. And again, I just want to thank you all again for your time this morning, and please don't hesitate to reach out. I have a cell phone that rings nonstop, and I love to answer it. So thank you all so much for the opportunity. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Director Tripp. I appreciate that. Appreciate what you do. Great partnership with our ag community in this state. I know many of our committee have been very involved in promoting agriculture, helping small farmers. I know you mentioned that in your comments, and I know many of us know that we have a lot of small farmers in this state, and it's a very positive thing. And I know some of us have been very concerned about young people getting involved in agriculture, knowing where their food comes from, and being able to have a possible career in agriculture in some shape or form. And I know it's a very tough industry to get into, capital intensive, and your agency is certainly involved in that in a big way as well. So big job. Thank you. Great service across our state with our many offices that a few of us on this committee have to go there every now and then and spend a little time, but I've had great experience recently. Is anybody in the committee got a question for Director Tripp or anything? I see none. I think you covered it pretty well. I see a couple. Representative Lorica.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you for what you do and your agency, Director. I didn't grow up on a farm, but in the community where I grew up, all of my friends come from family farms and still farm today. And I've heard FSA all my life, and I got older and began to learn what that is and what it means to agriculture, and obviously what agriculture means to my community and subsequently this state and nation. And you always kind of wonder, I guess, who's running that? Who are the people that are behind the scenes that run it? And I was just telling Chairman Corbett that I have a lot more confidence about the person that's running this agency in Georgia today than I did. So it means a lot that you come and share with us. And if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I may not can do everything, but I'll make a lot of noise trying to do it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Chairman Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just didn't want the director to get out of here without being questioned. So Dominic.
They question us enough.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I was just wanting to return the favor. Dominic beat me to it, but no, I just wanted to publicly tell the director, thank you for his leadership and his enthusiasm in this position. We have not seen that in a long time. And his willingness to get out and about in the districts and across the state and talk to farmers. I know how farmers are. They stay busy and sometimes they don't get out and be in the places they need to be. And you being willing to go out and meet with them. And I know we're going to get you down in South Georgia and Colquitt County here soon. So looking forward to that. And Representative Perkle just wanted me to ask you if there was any opportunity to move the state office to his district down in Tifton. But you can answer that later. But no, thank y'all for what you do. I utilized the FSA when I first started, and if it had not have been for FSA, I would not be farming today. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Tripp. I just want to publicly thank you. You come with high accolades from UGA, and you have been living up to everything that they said you are, and you've been proactive. And I know you've been in my district several times, and I'm excited about the initiatives that you're working on and would love to continue to partner with you.
So
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Representative Dukes.
Listen, I just want to echo those comments that were made. Basically, we really appreciate what you do, and we think that the administration was very wise in selecting you
Thank you, sir.
to this position. And we are certainly looking forward to you coming to House District 154,
Right.
which is more or less the heartline of peanuts and pecans. I know the chairman would think that up in Fort Valley, that they're the pecan capital of the world. But unfortunately, that title exists in my district. But we would certainly like to have you to come down and share with us.
I'd love to. Thank you, sir.
We have one other question. Chairman Perkle.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think we might have another representative on this panel that might disagree with 154 being the peanut capital of the state. At least one member of this committee. There's not many on this committee that has spent more time in the FSA office than I have. And I want to, I do think those that do assist us in the paperwork that's required do an exceedingly good job. And I want to commend your staff for that. I also would like to have further discussions about being in the agricultural basin of the state of Georgia. I would love to see the FSA office in Tifton. Absolutely. And we'll have a further discussion about that going forward. However, through the pandemic, and I know there's a lot of constituent services that we did in every single agency that were impacted, from DFACS to Department of Labor to, I mean, every facet of the way government touches its citizens was impacted through the pandemic. Especially so, though, with the FSA office. And I know there were rules that were handed down that you perhaps did not have any choice in, but the FaceTime is so important. I got to tell you, a lot of the farmers, my dad being one, has a flip phone. And I know there had been a push at the upper levels to see about getting more stuff online. We do have problems in internet access. We really do still. And even with cellular and to go online, and, you know, I saw one bulletin. You know, you go online, you put in this password thing, and perhaps you sign up these forms, and this is the date you go on. And I got to tell you, my dad can't even take a text on his phone. And so the FaceTime is so important. And when the offices were closed, it was a hardship. They have begun to be open back up. But I just, while you were in front of me, I wanted to emphasize, and I know that you're aware of that, but for the constituents that I have and for myself that do production agriculture, that FaceTime with the people in your office is as good as they are. And unless I can look at them and walk through the myriad of forms you have to fill out, and specifically where the farms are, and this field that you'll see on a map, and the top portion I'm planting in cotton, and this is the date, and I actually have to be there with a person to draw a line in the top portion of this field. So it is so important, and I know some of that is handed down from afar. And I'm through my question. Is that not true?
I know. Those are a lot to unpack. But I will say, I think you're exactly right. That FaceTime is important. And we've actually began the next phase in our staff and encouraging them to actually go visit our producers directly as well. So instead of you just having to come to us, we have a role to come to you and visit you on your site, particularly for our farm loan managers. If you're applying for a loan to do X, Y, and Z, our managers and our officers need to come visit you as well. I will also add, I think you're exactly right. And to your point about the, access to internet and issues around the state, for one of the first times, we have snail mailed a physical newsletter 4 times a year that includes program dates and signups and important materials. Because one of the things I've learned with my experience in agriculture is that oftentimes the mailbox for our producers is the dashboard of the trucks. It's not actually the actual mailbox. And so our hope is that we would get something to each of our producers that they can keep with them, put on their refrigerators. And so we're continuing to find innovative ways to get the message out. But we are open without appointment at this time. And but you're exactly right. FaceTime is important. Yes, sir.
Thank you for that question. Secretary Meeks.
I'll just thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll be very brief. Just wanted to say and echo what has already been said. Thank you for the role that you do. You're very accessible and always willing to talk to us through the difficult issues that we face, not just for us, but our constituents. So thank you for being here today and for what you and your staff do. You got a great staff across the state, and we certainly appreciate them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Director, also, I for those on this committee that don't do active farming, your the agency also does a lot for environmental initiatives, a lot for even wildlife and those like. Could you touch on that for a minute? I know Georgia's got great forest in this state, and I know you have programs to further that.
Absolutely. We have a whole host of programs, and I'd love to talk more about it. Say, for example, if you want to construct a hay barn, or if you want to do anything on your property, our team works with you to construct environmental impact. And that's very important. We also team up with NRCS, which is one of our sister agencies. And so it doesn't matter where you want to start with your farming operation or where you want to end. I'm sure we have a role. And if we don't have a role, we'll find a way to get you the answers you need. And so, but we do have a whole host of programs, Mr. Chairman, forestry, timber. But I think that environmental impact is very important. And we take that into consideration before we move forward with processing payments or loan applications.
Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate what you do. And I don't see any other questions. Representative Bentley, we have her online. And good morning, Representative Bentley. Do you have a question? Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me now?
We can, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to ask, I just arrived in the parking deck here at the CLOB, so I'm about to get ready to come into the building, but I want to make sure the director is still going to be there. When I arrive, I would like to meet him because I did not get a chance to catch all of his presentation, but I was very impressed with what I heard for the last few minutes. But if he's going to still be around, he's not going to leave at this very moment.
I'm jetting out, ma'am. I'm kidding. I'll be here.
All righty.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm on my way into the meeting. I want to make sure the chairman knew I was on the meeting now. I'm just not there presently, but I'm on the way. I just parked.
Well, thank you. Director Tripp, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Y'all have, we have an agenda here in front, but we're gonna deviate a little bit from that this morning. Representative Schofield saw me yesterday and she does not want to hear HR 880, so we can scratch that off the agenda this morning. One thing not on your agenda that I want to get to that won't take long before we go to SB 537 is this committee needs to appoint a commodity commission ex officio member to the overall commodity commission for a 2-year term. And Buddy Legier, that many of you know, grows watermelons, pecans, and cordial, long time. I've got a resume here. He's in the Georgia Agricultural Hall of Fame. Has been a great mentor and a friend of mine for many, many years, involved in just about every type of agricultural support, UGA, Commodity Commission for pecans. He has been very involved, National Pecan Marketing Association, and I can't think of a better person to reappoint Buddy. He's on the Executive Council, National Watermelon Association, and so it's would be my recommendation to reappoint Mr. Legier back as an ex officio for a 2-year term. Any other nominations from the floor, or anybody else got any discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion? Got a motion. Do I have a second? Got a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Hearing none, this committee has reappointed Buddy Legier for a 2-year term. Okay, got that. We have a Senate Bill 537. Senator Jones, how about coming to the mic here and talk a little bit about food insecurity this morning.
All right. Thank you,
Welcome,
Mr. Chair.
welcome to the House Ag Committee.
A pleasure to be
This is
here.
your first trip.
To the Ag Committee, it certainly is. And I would point out, Mr. Chair, that I'm also a graduate of Leadership Georgia too.
Oh.
So that helps it all. And I didn't go to UGA, but I went to South Carolina State, and our mascot is Bulldogs too. So I'm
Well,
also
good.
kind of like
we
a
got a
dog.
lot in common.
There you go.
I hope,
Absolutely.
I hope you like Freedom Farm Bill that's sitting over in the Senate. Maybe you can urge your fellow senators to vote green on that one. When
Gotcha.
Keep an eye out for it.
All righty. I can't help but keep an eye out for that one. It's interesting. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to kind of hear this. And there actually will be some changes I'll go over too with this. And I understand this is just a hearing only. So that's kind of timely. This bill comes from a bipartisan study committee. It was Senator Goodman, Senator Hickman, and also myself and Senator Freddie Sims Powell did a study committee over the summer dealing with food insecurity, food swamps, food deserts, whatever term that's kind of out there. They all kind of basically gauge what's going on. Georgia has a food insecurity issue. It's one that's widespread. Just from an anecdotal standpoint, there's been articles written in the last 5 years talking about you should hear about food deserts in Athens, Georgia. Mobile grocery stores hope to nourish food deserts in Albany. Stranded in Atlanta's food deserts. How Augusta is looking to end food deserts. Starving for nutrition in North Georgia. How Savannah city planners hope to attract grocery stores. Finding food justice at farmers markets. And that's just a few different anecdotal articles that are out there. But then also from a data standpoint, according to census tract information, which we look at when we deal with food insecurity, over 2 million Georgians basically live in food desert or food insecurity, according to the USDA Economic Research Service. The precise definition of food insecurity basically is where poverty rate is at least 20% or exceeds 20% of the population, or the median income in the area does not exceed 80% of the statewide income, and at least 500 people or 33% of the population in an urban area are located 1 mile away from a grocery store, in a rural area. They're located at least 10 miles away from a grocery store. So it was those not only anecdotal stories, but also from the data that we saw. We created the study committee. We traveled to Augusta, we traveled to Valdosta, and also here in Atlanta, heard from over 55 stakeholders. We wanted to make sure that we heard from different types of stakeholders, and we heard from store owners. We heard from the director of WIC, food bank operators, heard from Chamber of Commerce, policy analysts, pastors. We got the vice president of Dollar General also was able to speak, and also the vice president of Food Depot spoke to us. And we were able to come up with different recommendations. And one of the first two recommendations we had was, number one, where are our food deserts located? And what are we doing to try to address them? And how can persons actually try to get service to aid them within their food insecurity issue? And so what we wanted to do is create a database website, so to speak, to kind of let people know where to go. And to do that, we met with Commissioner Black, and he's been very receptive to that. In fact, we're working to get money in the budget to make sure that takes place, and that will go through the Department of Agriculture. His IT people have met with some folks, and they're trying to put something together. So that was number one. And then the second part of that was to create a food policy commission to actually now look at the other recommendations that we have. Because what we learned was that these are very layered conversations, very complicated conversations that's going on, and they involve a lot of stakeholders. And it was difficult to try to resolve it with just one bill or kind of like a hodgepodge of bills. What we really need is a food policy for Georgia. And this is not unusual. Many states right now are doing the same thing. What they're doing is they're saying, we cannot just tackle the issue with one bill. They're creating these food policy commissions or advisory councils, depending on the state, that actually looks at the issue, not only from a short-term standpoint, but also from a long-term standpoint. And so I would say that we all came in with different perceptions about food insecurity. Many persons may have thought, well, we'll just build more grocery stores. And the reason why I say this is layered, that's not necessarily going to be the answer, because grocery stores, what we learned is, has a 1% profit margin. So you can't just build them and they will come. Another common practice would be, another common theme might be, well, let's just ban all Dollar Generals. And as you know, there's actually been one county that's placed a moratorium on that. But then you realize that Dollar Generals actually are fitting a particular need in that particular community. And as the vice president told us, and you could also, one of the questions I asked from a person from that particular county was, once you did this moratorium, was there any more grocery stores that popped up? So they were actually feeling a need that existed within the marketplace. When you start talking about using tax credits, very complicated type instruments, we heard from Atlanta Emerging Markets that talked about how they use new market tax credits. So federal tax credit to aid them in developing grocery stores. It can be used for that. But one of the catches is that for rural communities, it would be very difficult for them to basically use this instrument on their own. They may not have the expertise to do it. So based upon that, we created this food policy commission, and there's also a bipartisan bill, and did go through the Senate 51-0. And what the policy commission is really doing is carrying out the other 8 recommendations that the study committee did. And so that's what you'll actually see on page 2 from lines 35 to 52. Those are actually the recommendations that the study committee had. So those are recommendations, and the policy committee is going to be looking at that and tackling that from a long-term perspective and a short-term perspective. Now, also, since we're in kind of like in the bill, there will be a couple of changes I make note of when you look at lines 57 through 60, which deals with the various heads of agencies. We've been in contact with different agencies, and it's going to be better to actually make those heads ex officio members and not necessarily the actual members part of the 17. So what you see there, those members will actually be, that's going to be a change to where they'll actually be ex officio members. Based upon that, we probably also will make a change where you see where it says that the Department of DFACS, that now will probably be Department of Human Services, and also Department of Public Health. They would also be part of this, because they did come testify, and that would be a change that would be made, still be ex officio members. So that was one change that would be made. Also on line 57, page 4, where it talks about the fact that the governor would make these appointments. The governor actually is not making all of these appointments. So it would just basically, that would be stricken where it says the governor is going to make these 17 appointments. That's not correct language because he will not be doing that. So that part would be stricken, and also the part which talks about their qualifications would also be taken out. So I believe that's line 26. So that part would also be deleted. On same page, line 26. I'm sorry. Let's see. That's correct. That's correct. Now, on the appointments, that would be page 3. That's correct. And the appointments that we're discussing is on line 57 to 59. Okay. Also on page 2, if you look at lines 25 and 26, the Georgia Grown Farm to Food Bank program would also be deleted. Just the language that says the Georgia Grown Farm to Food Bank program, that would also be deleted. And those are basically the changes that we have now. I do have one other change I want to make note of, and that will be on page 6. Line 122 to 123. Department of Agriculture, we were still discussing how that per diem will go. That may be stricken, and the committee will only meet through virtual, but that is a potential change to where that particular provision may be stricken on the per diem allowance. But myself and the Department of Agriculture, they called me yesterday at 4 o'clock, and so we're still discussing how to navigate through that. So those are some of the basic changes that would be in the bill. With that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Senator. We've got a couple of questions. Representative LaRocca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. I know that every member of this committee would agree that we've got to protect food security. And, you know, I've heard the phrase and seen it on bumper stickers. If you no farm, no food. And it's kind of hard for me to wrap my mind around, but there's a member of this committee running for a higher office, top office in ag, that voted against the Freedom to Farm Act that protects the farm. And I'm just curious to know what the will of this legislature would be. I've pulled the list up and saw all the members that voted against the Freedom to Farm Act. Most of them are in these food deserts. And I think a very balanced, measured approach to protecting family farms and the farmer is appropriate to try to make sure that we keep an adequate food supply in the chain to make sure we meet the needs of these food deserts. And didn't know if that was a part of your conversation, but just would be curious about your thoughts on the importance of protecting the farm as it relates to making sure we meet the needs of these food deserts.
Certainly that is important. That bill is not in the Senate. We're discussing it. So we're still going back and forth with it, and we'll see if any changes will be made to it. But that's just something we're still going back and forth with. Some of the areas would be in food desert areas, but I would also stress that a lot of your food desert areas would not be there too. It's one of those provisions, and that's why I kind of went through the anecdotal articles. When you start talking about whether it's in North Georgia, whether it's in West Georgia, Augusta, Savannah, Columbus, you really are going throughout. And of course, I understand that part of the farm bill could affect even some of those areas, but just making the point that this is something that really just crosses all lines. And I think that's what really stuck out with us, was that no matter what type of preconceived notion you may have had coming into the committee, and this is a little bit off what you're saying, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, you had to reevaluate that because the nature of the problem is so vast. So in other words, person may think that the only way to deal with this is through private sector, but then we had the county administrator from Lowndes County that talked about, which is more conservative county, that talked about the fact that they want to encourage persons to take advantage of some of the government programs that are there. And they actually have problems with people doing that because of some of the stigma to that, but they actually want to encourage that. And then, as I mentioned, persons on my side of the aisle might have thought that let's just close all the Dollar Generals, but that's not going to be the answer either. So we're certainly, got that bill over there in our chamber. We're going to look closely at it. Part of that actually affects my district. There's an issue that's going on there that could affect economic development. So my mind is not closed on it, but I also think that this is such a rampant problem that we really want to get a start on this and try to deal with it.
Representative Leverett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator, for the bill, and thank you for your service on the study committee that addressed, I think, this important issue. I just wanted to make sure I understood and I know it's a hearing only, but just that I understand what the changes are that you were discussing. So I think the first one was on page 2. We were going to strike in line 26, everything from the "and" to the end. So, and the Georgia Grown Farm to Food Bank program will be stricken.
That's correct.
Now, what is the effect of that? Or does that take a study of that program and its uses out of the scope of the council?
No, what had happened was that this was already drafted. It was drafted at the same time when the Georgia Grown Farm to Food Bank program came up for a vote. So initially what it says is that it actually changed the name of SNAP. That's kind of like the head note of that particular bill, but it really does not do that. And so, yeah. And so this was in there because it was basically saying, well, we have a new name for SNAP. We need to include it, but it really doesn't do that. So therefore it's not really relevant.
So it doesn't change the scope of the purview. Okay.
Right.
And then the other changes, I think, were on page 3, and it was basically the composition. And from 54 down, I guess you're making commissioner of the Department of Agriculture, commissioner of labor, and the state school superintendent ex officio members. So
That's
they would
correct.
not have to be appointed by the governor.
That's correct.
And then are you adding commissioner of Department of Human Services and Department of Public Health as ex officio members also?
That's correct. And most likely what would be struck would be line 60, the Director of Division of Family and Children's Services, because they actually come underneath that.
Okay.
Right.
And then the rest of the people listed going on to page 4, they would still be appointments by
That's
whoever, the
correct.
governor or whoever it was
That's correct.
stated. Okay.
Yes.
And then the only other change you're still working on is on page 6 on line 122 about working through per diem, and
Yes.
that would be needed. Okay.
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Leverett. I appreciate your attorney skills on this committee to keep us thing. Representative Watson, Chairman Watson. Oh, Chairman Perkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What Representative Lurikia had mentioned kind of really struck to me that food deserts is not a Republican or Democrat issue. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, if you don't have access to food, you're hungry. And I'd like to thank the chairman here publicly for the freedom of farm. That anything that provides a threat to us producing food is kind of extends those deserts to places they should not be when we have the resources that we have. I noticed, so you mentioned 17 members, at least 17 members on this board. 2 questions and I'll stop, I promise. And they're going to be going together. Are there concerns that of having too many cooks in the kitchen when you have that large a number of a committee in actually finding a solution that people can agree on? And secondly, similar to it, if the director of DFACS comes off and we add DPH and Department of Health, then I know at least 17 could include 18, but we're actually looking at 18 members now. Is that correct?
And we may actually strike again. 17 is really my number. What happened was I spoke with Department of Human Health Services today, and so really the DFACS person should not have been on. But just to tell you, when we were in the Senate, we were actually at 23, and we cut it down, and 17 is really the number. So there may be an additional change. I don't know right offhand which one that would be, but so that's number one. We're not trying to make it any bigger. And then number two, on the issue about the size as it's currently configured, each one of these persons actually testified, but it's more than that. I think that each one kind of brings something that has to be needed to the discussion. So if you don't have grocery owners there, you're not hearing from them because you're not hearing about the lack of profit margin, which someone from UGA may or may not know, someone from activist community may or may not know, but that becomes important in understanding that you can't just take a position of, why don't y'all just go build more grocery stores? When you look at the hospital persons, each one of them, actually their hospitals do specific things within the food desert space. Grady Hospital, for instance, has something called Food for Medicine, that they actually encourage their patients, and this is something they could take statewide as far as food being for medicine. So each one of these persons kind of, I think, add something there that's necessary. I can tell you this, working for the last 3 months, some of these folks actually came and testified twice. So whether they were in Augusta or came to Atlanta or Atlanta and Valdosta, all of these people are very invested into this particular conversation, and they all have one thing that they want to find a solution to. But I also think that you want to bring all sorts of ideas there, because as I said, I had misconceptions about how to solve it. And you realize there's other avenues, and they're necessary avenues. And I just think that what I learned from these folks is that they all want to come up with a solution, that there was no fighting with any of them. There was disagreements, but there was no fighting as such. They all want to come up with a solution to this problem.
Senator, we're getting kind of close on
Absolutely.
time here.
I understand.
I want to try to move on. Representative Camp, a quick question.
Sure. I just want to thank you for bringing this bill. I especially appreciate starting on line 41, where you're attempting to utilize existing educational programs and efforts that exist, and then moving forward, working with private and nonprofits. Because in my community, I live 52 miles from here, south of this building. And some people could say we live in a food desert. I'm 8.5 miles from a grocery store and 4 miles from a Dollar General. So for some people who do not have transportation, that could be perceived as a food desert. So the fact that we're looking at a lot of different avenues, not a one size fits all, I appreciate that in this resolution, and look forward to being able to vote on it eventually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator, I've got a quick question. I mean, I know we live in a time of high inflation right now, but also we're in full employment. So I know food insecurity is a very complex problem to solve and all. Could you, what do you think our period of high inflation now is going to make the situation worse?
Well, I think not. Well, that's one aspect of it. And I'll tell you another thing that's actually going to make it worse is going to be the war right now in Ukraine, because there's such a major food supply, not necessarily just to the United States, but throughout the world, which is going to destabilize other areas. So not only are you talking about an inflationary problem, you're also going to talk about some of the destabilization that's taking place throughout the world in a lot of different nations. And that actually is one reason to actually have a food policy council, because you have to respond, not only whether it's high inflation, not only whether it's COVID-19, you have to kind of have long-term things in place. Now we're about to have to respond to this world crisis, which is going to affect the food supply. So I think whether it's high inflation or the food supply that's threatened now on different levels, that's exactly why you kind of have this council to try to think long-term, not only short-term, but also long-term, as far as having a policy in place on food deserts and food insecurity.
However, this council would have no authority. Is that?
They're
the way
going to
it's
do
written?
they would have the authority of making recommendations.
And actually no budget to go along with it either.
Which is not that unusual for some commissions,
Okay.
and these persons here who are part of this, they're not, that wouldn't be a concern for theirs. But that's one of the reasons, though, quite frankly, why I have different, like the speaker or the lieutenant governor, minority leader. I want to make sure that the legislature had buy-in and almost to some extent oversight, because that's leadership positions who now are kind of on the hook to some extent. And I'm also in leadership in the Senate to say we got to make something happen.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate your concern for this problem we have. And thank you for this bill. We do have one person who wanted to speak to it. Amy, Sarah, if you could come to the podium. Welcome. Tell us a little bit who you are and why you're here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. My name's Dr. Amy Sharma. I'm the Executive Director of Science for Georgia, and I'm really pleased to talk to you about 537 today. 2 years ago, I challenged my interns to find me practices that would eliminate the need for food banks and eliminate food deserts. While overall impossible, we still need to move the needle. You guys heard the numbers this morning. If we're talking 1 in 8 Georgians are food insecure, I did the math, that would be those 4 gentlemen over there. If you were to look at everyone in this room, that's 1 in 8 people in this room. Sorry, guys. But without a stomach full of nutritious food, it's difficult to learn, which leads to poor performance in school and work. And then you've got lost wages, lost school days, and poor health, which costs the US economy $165 billion annually. All right, and we all learn Georgians produce a lot of great nutritious food, but due to these market forces, farmers drive right by the food insecure and into well-heeled suburbia or out of stage. And we all learned this morning, profit margins are so thin that most people and communities in Georgia that depend on agriculture also qualify for food assistance. All right, so why? Food assistance is a patchwork that extends between agriculture, human services, DFACs, school systems, public and private aid, and so on and on. So Georgians are not starving, but they're not getting out of food insecurity. The last food policy in this country came from the 1969 White House Conference on Food Insecurity. That was 53 years ago. Nixon was in office and we had just landed on the moon with less computing power than on your cell phone. So we are no longer using rotary phones. My interns don't even know what those are. And it's probably time we look slightly differently. So we talked to a lot of people. Donna Martin down at the Burke County Fields School System, by sheer force of will, she has turned farm to school into a year-round program in Burke, where 100% of students qualify for free and reduced lunch. And therefore, every kid gets a fresh Georgia-grown fruit or vegetable every day at that school system. Her contracts with local smaller farms means they can expand operations, hire more people, and even sell to neighboring counties. So when I asked her if she had a template or a guidebook, she said, it's all in my head. We met a plethora of folks in Athens who by sheer force of will pulled together UGA, farmers, charities, shelters, grocery stores, etc., to make sure no one went hungry in the last 2 years in Athens. But they're too busy feeding people to spread that knowledge. So last summer, we pulled together a roundtable of experts, and I challenged these folks, if you could only do 2 things, what would it be? I'm sure you guys are all really familiar that when you put a bunch of people in the room together and ask them to only pick 2 solutions, it's really, really hard. But we got them there, and they said to better use all of these resources and all of this knowledge and all of these programs, you need that database and you need this council to improve coordination. We were pleased to be invited to speak before Senator Jones' bipartisan Senate committee. And I'd like to say that 55 other stakeholders, so not just us, all agreed that we need this committee to pull together what's going on, right? There are so many programs out there. To name a few that have just come up, right? The Senate Bill 6, the Farm to Food Bank program. Last year, we had the Farmers Market Development Act. All of these things are great. The farm to school thing is great. How do we expand and carry that forward? And if you don't put all these pieces together and bring all these complex views together to do a complex system, we're not going to be moving the needle, and we're going to keep people at 20% food insecure like we have for the last 20 years. So I really thank you for your time. I thank you guys for tackling this super important issue, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those comments and highlighting some of the successes we do have going on right now with agriculture in Georgia. Georgia Grown Farm to Food Bank program is, I'm really anticipating some good work out of that. I think the hard work of the governor to put that in, and I certainly know we did form the Farmers Market Committee last year, and I know many people under this Gold Dome, Senate, the House, both sides of the aisle are working hard to strengthen Georgia agriculture and make it successful. It's very important part of our economy for our state, very important part for our consumers is more importantly that they have good, fresh, healthy, wholesome food. And so thank you for your work with Science for Georgia, and appreciate you taking the time to come here this morning.
Thank you very much.
So looks like we might have a little extra time here. I don't see anybody in the halls behind us. So your good luck, Representative Dukes. We got 2 House resolutions. You've been busy. Thank you, Senator. I'm sorry. I apologize. Thank you for bringing this and our hearing only today, and we'll try to get those, you'll bring those changes back to us. Man, thank you for your time. Thank you. So Representative Dukes, which one you want to go first? Let's do 916. It's got a good second sign. Representative Williams, who actually spoke for Freedom of Farm Bill. So let's do that one first. Why don't you take the table? 916. 2 resolutions. Sounds like you might be running for something. I like to get you on the spotlight there.
And listen,
On the hot seat.
I've been really looking forward to it.
Thank you for your work on for agriculture. Thank you for being part of this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will tell you that it's probably been one of the highlights of my legislative career to be able to serve on the Agriculture Committee with such distinguished gentlemen in this field, particularly coming from my part of the state. I was born in, I think it's Representative District down in Mitchell County in Hopeful, Georgia, where I can recall at 11 years old, I would catch a ride to Camilla, Georgia, where I would enter on the back of a field truck. They don't allow that anymore. It was a covered truck at 11, and I would go to a farm and pick tomatoes, crop tobacco, and pull weeds. And I was a good tomato picker. I would pick 100-foot tubs of tomatoes every day at 11. You know, when you think about it now, that is, from a labor perspective, you can't do that anymore. Can't work 11-year-olds, and you definitely can't ride them on the back of a field truck. So the experience in agriculture and being in this industry has really helped to shape my character. Hard work and perseverance. What I learned there are the gateways to success. But Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about expanding our national competitiveness of Georgia agriculture. You know, we are #1 in the state in a number of agricultural products, particularly in the poultry industry, where we have chickens and eggs that leads our nation. And I know you, like I am, so proud of the fact that this is occurring here in Georgia. But what we want to do is to see if we can continue to build on this and expand it. We have other areas where that we are significant leaders in the products that we produce: pecans, peanuts, blueberries, just a plethora of great things that we are doing here in Georgia agriculture. Tobacco. We are uniquely suited to see if we can expand upon this industry while we are growing in these other products. I think if we given an opportunity to sit down and really look at where we can expand, you know, with the warming of the earth, South Georgia now is a place where citrus can grow. We can grow lemons and oranges and grapefruits and tangerines. It creates a grave opportunity for the people of the state, for the farming industry in the state, for us to grow. Now, we have had our challenges. We have, because in 2005 and 6, we accounted for approximately 1 in 5 Georgians working in the agriculture industry. We were about 15% of the state's economy. Now where we have reduced to is about 6 to 7% of the state's economy. And now 1 in 7 Georgians work in agriculture. What I am hoping is from the study committee, we can see where opportunities exist to expand upon Georgia's agriculture. As you know, in the cannabis industry, it is going to be significant growth there. With that, it creates opportunities. Now, I'm not advocating one way or another about Representative LaRicky's thoughts on cannabis. But I am sure.
Glad you're speaking to the bill.
But I'm sure that if it enhances Georgia's agriculture, it will be something that certainly that we would be for. I think it creates excellent opportunities for our state. And that is one of the reasons, among others, that I have requested that or asked for a study committee in this particular area.
Okay, thank you, Representative. We got a few. I'm kind of, are you sure you want to take questions on this?
I got up this morning and I prayed for all of you.
I don't see any of your
I'm
friends.
ready.
I don't see any of your friends' lights lighting up over here.
I would not have expected that.
I'll take Chairman Perkle first. That might be a little more helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we are friends, but I do have some concerns. Lines 10 to 12, whereas the national cannabis industry is worth, are you actually suggesting here that we expand, that we take steps to legalize recreational marijuana in this bill? As it's mentioned, you're trying to grow these industries from poultry and eggs or top producers and these others. You did mention the citrus that are not listed in lines 5 through 9, but the cannabis industry to grow exponentially, including recreational use of marijuana. And so I am not Representative LaRickia, but I do have serious objection to that. And secondly, if there could be a second part of this question, because my friends are picking at me about the length of my questions. So the second part, if you can hold on to that one, I don't see how government can, I think it's best for the farmers, for the markets, for competitiveness to increase production in some of these things. We can try as we might. And you could try to make coffee production in the state of Georgia one of your priorities, but we don't have the climate for that. So it's not going to work. I don't know how government can interfere in that to advance these other than taking off the barriers that we have with regulation on some of these things. But the marijuana thing, I will take you back to that one initially.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that question. I'm not advocating for or against it, but I live in a reality that if 31% of the people in the United States are living in states or municipalities where that marijuana is recreationally legal, and in so many states where we are doing medical marijuana, and in our own committee, we have decided that we want to engage in the cannabis industry. We are already here. All I want to do is that to look at it and see if this opportunity does exist, that Georgia farmers will not be in a position whether we cannot take advantage of this opportunity, particularly small Georgia farmers who are really wearing the brunt of what is happening in the agriculture industry, not only in the state, but throughout this nation. My advocacy is neither for or against. It's just a matter of my preparation. I want to be prepared if it comes, and I want Georgia to be prepared.
Thank you. We'll take another question. Representative Camp.
Good morning, Representative Dukes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question kind of relates back to our visitor we had today from the USDA FSA, Mr. Tripp. Isn't it kind of the responsibility? Isn't that we're funding federally and state-wise, University of Georgia, College of Ag, we have FSA, we have NRCS, we have a lot of different organizations that are really kind of already doing what you're discussing here. So wouldn't it kind of be duplication of services?
Well, I would, thank you for the question, Madam Representative. I would not advocate us duplicating anything that anyone else is doing. But what I would advocate is this, for us to begin to think beyond what we are doing. You see, our market share as rural Georgians and how we interact in the state has drastically diminished. I want to offer this to you. What has happened in rural Georgia to us is that our poverty level has seriously increased. We can't really hold people there because we are not providing the opportunities that is needed. We are run primarily by agriculture. My thoughts is how do we increase the value of agriculture such that, this is where I would like for it to go, create the value of agriculture such that we can create good paying jobs in our part of the state. Now, I'm not upset with anybody up here at all, really. And Metro has done well. You can look at it from their market share of what it is they have grown to from 206, from 205 and 206 to where we are now. And a lot of that has been as a result of things that this legislature has done to advocate and to promote that industry. As an individual from rural Georgia, we need to look at things that we can do to advocate the promotion of agriculture in this state. Listen,
Thank you. Oh, that's good. Let's end it right there on a good positive note. Time is getting late. Thank
Okay.
you for this. You have anything else you want to add on that? I think that's a pretty good way to do that. We have another resolution from
I
you.
have Ms. Courtney Thomas, who is a UGA PhD student.
Okay.
I would like for her to have a word to say,
Okay.
if you would.
All right. Welcome. Tell us who you are. And
Hi, thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I'm here to speak on HR 916. I'm currently obtaining my doctorate in community forestry and arboriculture at the University of Georgia. Through my work, I research plant and soil interactions, specifically looking at how soil hydrology, nutrient dynamics, and contamination impact plant health. Within the agricultural industry, many current policies incentivize the growth of monoculture, fast-growing, profitable cash crops. But research shows that growing multiple diverse crops through multiple cropping, intercropping, cover crops, and crop rotations can have environmental and economic benefits for farmers. This study committee's efforts to diversify and expand crops grown on and sold from farms will give consumers new and locally grown products, reduce economic risk for farmers, and allow them to tap into profitable niche markets, which strengthens local economies. And crop diversification can reduce the need for pesticides and herbicides, increase root development and overall plant health, and improve soil fertility and water retention and reduce soil erosion, all of which will increase crop yields and potential revenue. Crop diversification could increase Georgia's share in the national markets and make farms more resilient, as they must inevitably meet the demands of Georgia's growing population. There are several crops that can be grown in Georgia's climate that aren't currently being grown. As Representative Dukes mentioned, citrus fruits being grown in the southern parts of the state, and there's high potential for growth and diversification with that crop specifically. Further research is needed to understand best cropping systems and management practices for small farms. Although there is research being done into crop diversification, there is not a solid framework that farmers can use to diversify their farms. Research is needed to understand potential agricultural products that can be grown in Georgia's climate, further evaluating the benefits of crop diversification and using diversification as a potential pest control on farms. The policies that will come from the committee's findings are exactly what many people have been hoping to see. Diversifying and expanding agricultural markets will improve sustainability of farms and bring greater economic gains to farmers and local communities. I'm excited to see the positive impacts the findings of this bill could have for the agricultural industry and the people of Georgia. Thank you.
thank you for that presentation. I'll turn it back over to you, Representative Dukes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But my point, I was getting ready to make a point on this, and that is, listen, we spend about almost $1 billion a year in Georgia to promote a film industry. That's what we did. Very little of that money, of those benefits, come into rural Georgia. Very few. You have Atlanta, Savannah, and now Columbus. It comes out of the Treasury. We gonna have to figure out something that we can do with our urban legislators that's going to be able to promote the sustainability of Georgia agriculture and make it grow. We got to have it.
Okay. Time is getting late. Is any other questions of anyone here? Representative Dukes, I thank you for these resolutions. I know your heart's in agriculture and rural Georgia. I appreciate your passion for that and wanting to improve that. We all do. I have nothing else for this committee today. Is anybody else have anything you want to bring before the committee? Appreciate my assistant Sarah being here this morning, Lee Goff, who's back in office, I think. Dave Barry, appreciate all your work on the Senate and House Ag committees and all you do. with that, we got a session here shortly, so meeting adjourned.